Hello and welcome to Retirement Solutions, the podcast. I'm Ryan Thacker, and I have a special guest on the podcast with me today. So excited about this. We've been talking about this for a long time. Our guest is Brian Ward. He is one of our top advisors at B.O.S.S Retirement Solutions and Advisors. Brian, we go back a long ways. It's almost 30 years.
Yeah,
How you doing? Hanging out with each other for 30 years.
yeah, it's been a fun ride, really good time. It's so great to work together. We went for a stint for a while and then had a little break for a number of years and back together now for I think 9. So anyway, it's great to be with you.
It's great to be with you. Brian, you've aged well. I have no hair. 30 years ago, I had hair. You have lots of hair. So well done, man. Well done. It's pretty fun to think back on all the different twists and turns. We started together in the mortgage industry, which, we talk about in our book, we really learned about scale as we watched the company that we worked with went from one office to 22 offices. And it was just a great lesson in watching businesses grow. And of course, now we've been working together here at B.O.S.S Retirement Solutions and Advisors for almost 10 years, and
Yeah.
it's just been a joy. Let me just give you a little bit of background on Brian, because Brian is tremendously talented. He's an investment advisor representative here at B.O.S.S Retirement Solutions. He's also a licensed insurance agent, and he's spent over 16 years, almost 2 decades, navigating and helping families navigate these challenges in retirement. Brian, I love to hear about your story about how you got in the business. Tell me about you and your dad and how that came together for you in your introduction into retirement planning.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it, Ryan. So yeah, it's honestly, we were in the mortgage business together, like you mentioned, and that was a great beginning of our careers, right? Kind of coming out of college and
Mhm.
into that world. And my father was an advisor and had his own firm, and I had actually never intended to go that route, but he had some serious health challenges, and he approached me and said, son, I'm going to either sell this firm. I'm getting ready to retire and I've had some
Mhm.
health challenges and realize, hey, I want to retire and enjoy it myself. I'm either going to turn it to someone else, or if you'd like the opportunity, I'd love to work with you and have you take over the firm. So I did that in 2010, and
Mhm.
and worked with my dad for a couple of years, and we transitioned his client base, which was a small boutique firm here in Utah, and I took that firm on, and then that kind of reconnected us, and
Yes.
and here we are now. After a number of years, we reconnected, and here we are now, almost 10 years. Working together in helping people retire with confidence.
I love that. That mission, helping people retire with confidence. We help the mass affluent. Um, what that means is, like, if you've heard any of our radio shows or you've watched the TV, and you've seen us on TV or been to one of our public events, we talk about making a difference to the mass affluent. Here's what that means: we help them optimize their Social Security, we help them minimize their investment risk, and minimize their retirement taxes so that you can have confidence in retirement. Brian, I love that this journey for you started with your dad's firm, because I don't know, I know your dad, and he was so dedicated to that mission of just helping good people, give them good information so that they could make great decisions. What has this meant for you, um, to help the families that come into the conference room, starting with your dad's practice to now, almost 10 years here at B.O.S.S Retirement Solutions? What has that journey meant for you?
Some of the greatest experiences that I've had in doing what we do, right, and helping these people retire and have confidence is, I have a client that started with my dad in 1979,
Wow.
uh, and when I took over the firm and created a relationship with this family. Um, uh, they have actually since passed, but we're on to now the third generation of that family that's worked
Mm,
with my family.
mm.
Uh, and it's just been a complete joy. Experiences like that, right? Creating these relationships, helping people make these decisions that are really, really crucial decisions just so that they can have a comfortable, happy, enjoyable retirement. And it's about relationships. That's really what it's about, right? I mean, we use tools, we use strategies, we use all these different things, but it really comes down to is relationships to just do what's right for these people and help them really enjoy and maximize their retirement.
I love that story. 3 generations.
3 generations.
There's very few places that you can have the type of impact. We talk all the time that, you've got an educator, a teacher that has, impacted generations. Maybe they've been at a school for, 2, 3, 4 decades, and there's been multiple family members that have gone through that. You think about a religious leader, a bishop or a pastor, and, the effect that they can have spiritually on a family. And then I put what we do every day
Yeah.
right up this, helping solve problems on things that really matter most. I think sometimes you watch the TV talk shows and you see the talking heads and you think about, I'm going to buy this stock or I'm going to buy that stock and I'm going to maximize it. And they're talking about all these different strategies. But at the end of the day, in our conference rooms at B.O.S.S Retirement Solutions, what matters are the relationships.
Yeah.
Those relationships that you get to, hey, I just stopped working. Where's my paycheck going to come from? Well, let's talk about Social Security. Or, you know, the truth is, I didn't make the right investments and I lost a lot of investments that no one talks about at the backyard barbecue. But all of a sudden, their portfolio is half of what they wanted it to be because they made some poor investment decisions. And then they're like, I don't know, I've been paying into this 401k for my entire career. I have no idea how to get this money out. Government makes it really easy to get it in. It's complicated, confusing, getting it back out. I just love it. I mean, and to be together with good friends like you, Brian, and all of the advisors that we have at B.O.S.S Retirement Solutions. And for me, I get to work with my brother. Um, it's just so rewarding. And this business is full of rules and regulations and disclosures and disclaimers. But at the end of the day, you want to be somebody that you can trust, that has your best interest, not because that's what it says on the piece of paper and all the thick pages of disclaimers that you sign, but because you can look at them in the eye across the table and know we've got this together.
There's so many experiences that I've had in my career, and I'm sure you've had the same, and with all of our advisors in the firm, where the unexpected happens, whether that be a serious illness or unexpected death, and inevitably, after your closest family, we tend to be one of the very first phone calls.
Yes.
And to sit across the table in our conference room or talk on the phone with the client, be able to assure them that we've had a great plan put in place that includes their social security maximization and getting everything out of that and putting together the right IRA strategy and tax strategy and income strategy, all of these things, coupled together. And just, when you hear that frantic and nervous and sad phone call of, this has happened and are we going to be okay? That's really the question that they want to know.
Yes.
Is, are we going to be okay? And that's probably the most gratifying meetings, albeit difficult, but honestly, some of the most gratifying meetings I've had is to be able to sit across those people and just reassure them, we have a plan for this and you're going to be just okay. Things are going to be fine.
Am I going to be okay? How many times, how many thousands of times have we heard that over our careers? And Brian, I just want to give you a thank you because when you sit across the desk from Brian, you feel it. You just know it. He's interested. He's looking for your best interest. His support team, Cassidy, on your team. I just love watching how you meet with people. You look at what are your hopes, what are your concerns, what are your fears, what are your dreams, and just watching you two work together and put the blueprint together and watching what that looks like. And I think the highest form of compliment, or you're one of the highest referral advisors in our firm as well. People are like, man, you got to talk to Brian. You got to talk to Brian because Brian and Cassidy, when I look at them, I know I'm taken care of. So thank you, Brian, for all that you do.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, love to chat about a few things. Where should we go?
let's talk about Social Security. The number one question that we get in our offices at B.O.S.S Retirement Solutions and advisors
Yeah.
is filing for Social Security. And let me just set the stage here a little bit. There's 2,728 rules in the Social Security handbook. So then there's hundreds of thousands of rules about how those rules are interpreted.
Hmm.
And bottom line is it's complicated, it's confusing. Social Security employees are prohibited from giving you individual advice.
Right.
They can show you, here's your number on your statement that you get from Social Security, but they can't talk to you about how that works with your pension, how that works with your IRAs and 401ks, because they don't know all of those details. And so, the most recent statistic from Lawrence Kotlikoff, he is a PhD from Boston University. He says that the average American leaves $182,000 on the table when it comes to their Social Security benefit. Think about that. Think about that loss. And we see that. I mean, we see that in the families that come in and talk to us about it. And, that's not even to mention the mistakes that they're going to make on how they file for their Medicare and how they take their withdrawals from their 401ks and IRAs with RMDs. Here's what we've learned over all this time, Brian. We've helped over 50,000 families make an informed decision on how and when to claim their Social Security. It's not a one size fits all. It is not.
Definitely not.
So let's talk about this. Let's talk about. I'm just curious. You've done this a lot. What are some of the common things that you hear, Brian, when people walk into an office and like, "Hey, I need some help with Social Security." What are the questions they have? What goes through their mind? What are their concerns?
Yeah. So, 2011, I did my first Social Security workshop.
Mm-hmm.
Um, since then, I don't know how many we've done, Ryan. Like so many, and you guys have done so many.
Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds.
And it's always fun when somebody tries to throw us a curveball. That's always a lot of fun. But ultimately, most people's questions really come down to, I get this a lot. Is it going to be there? Number one, I'm really
Yes.
worried about it. I'm worried about, we hear that it could run out in 2033 or four or something like that. What does that really mean for me? I wonder, when is the best time? Of course, everyone always asks that question. When is the best time? And is there a time that I'm penalized if I do take it or don't take it? How does my spouse benefit from my benefit? I hear people not understanding that there even are spousal benefits, that they just don't know that those are there, right? Some basic things.
Yes.
So a lot of people don't understand the tax ramifications that are potentially there, right? That may happen.
Mm-hmm.
They don't plan properly. Those are kind of the common ones. And then we get some more advanced stuff that comes in. And those are always a lot of fun.
I have to tell my favorite, Brian. This is my all-time favorite. It was at a public event. This lady raises her hand in the back and she said, "I've been married 9 times. Which ex-spouse can I claim my Social Security on?" And the whole room, like the whole room just like turns and looks at her. It was
Yeah.
like, it was such I just love that moment. And I looked at her and I paused and I'm like, I don't know. But let's have a conversation. We'll find out. And you know what? We found out which spouse she could claim a Social Security benefit on. And
That's
you know,
awesome.
you talk about curveballs. Those are the type of things. They're just fun. And you know, here's what I've learned too over doing hundreds and hundreds of workshops. And you've been there, Brian. Is it's good information. It's good people that want good information so that they can make a good decision. I mean, you've been paying 12.4% of your paycheck,
Yeah.
6.2 from you, 6.2 from your employer into this program called Social Security. And it is mind boggling to me. Forbes said 96% of Americans will make a mistake. 96%. We don't want you to be part of that 96% that makes the mistake. We want you to be part of that 4% that does it right. So, Brian, we always love case studies. Of course, we can't share individual names and things like that, but over 50,000 families that we've helped make an informed decision on Social Security. We've seen just about everything. We were talking about a case with some grandkids. This is something we're seeing more and more. Grandma and grandpa You raise your family, your kids go out, they get married, and then all of a sudden, grandma and grandpa are the guardians and raising their grandkids just like they raise their kids. It's becoming more and more common.
Yeah.
Um, what what options? If I'm grandma and grandpa and I've got grandkids that I'm now the legal guardian I'm raising, how could Social Security help me?
Yeah. Let me give you a real life example. Client, they've been a client for a number of years. Uh, daughter made some poor choices. Uh, they were in this scenario that they needed to help, and as any good parents are going to do. And they decided to. The state actually said, "Grandma and Grandpa need to take these two kids," and they decided to actually officially adopt them.
Wow.
They came to visit with me, and in our meetings are sharing this information. He had actually just retired, and we had turned on his Social Security. And as they're sharing this information, he says, "I just retired, but I think I'm going to have to go back to work
Mm,
because now I've got a 12 and 13-year-old granddaughters that are living with us that we're in process of adopting, and we need, obviously we're going to take care of them." And they had no idea that there were minor children benefits that are available through Social Security um, for them based on his record.
hmm
Not only that, they had no idea that there was also a child in care benefit for his wife that she could claim as well.
Wow.
When all was said and done, in this real life example, he didn't have to go back to work.
Love that.
He was able to still continue with his retirement and now be dad slash grandpa to these two girls that really needed him and could spend the time that they needed, right, to help them through their middle school years. They're actually that was a number of years ago that this scenario happened. Their ages 16 and 17 now. One of them is graduating from high school this fall.
Wow.
Uh, and thanks to the benefits that we were able to help them understand and help them apply for, the girls received benefits, the mom receives benefits, and he received his Social Security benefit, right? All to help the family. And he stayed retired.
That's like Dad 2.0. Imagine being able to go back. We both have great families, Brian. Imagine being able to go back, not worried about work, all of the wisdom and knowledge, and be able to go help, love, mentor, train those granddaughters. How do you put a price tag on that?
It's so awesome because he's got such a great relationship with him. He's a big pickleball player, and he's introduced them into pickleball, and they play in pickleball tournaments together.
Oh,
They go around as a family, and mom doesn't play; she cheers them on. But he plays with these girls in pickleball tournaments all throughout the state, and
that's so awesome.
it's just so great the relationship that he's created or they've created, with their granddaughters, their daughters, for all intent and purposes, and the daughter is still involved, right? I mean, there's a success story there. She's overcoming some challenges, and she's involved with the girls, and anyway, it's just it's been a great thing, and a lot of it comes back to the support that they've been able to gain through the benefits that were available in their particular situation.
You know what I love about that is oftentimes when you think about retirement advisors or financial planners, it's oftentimes about how much rate of return are you going to get me in my
Yeah,
investment portfolio? And
that's a
you
question we
see
get a
the
lot.
ads on TVs. Yeah, you see the ads on TVs, the magic numbers. Let's get you to a magic number. Let's grow, grow, grow. Let's buy Bitcoin. Let's buy real estate. That is priceless. What you just said, this happens over and over again in our conference rooms at Boss Retirement Solutions Advisors. Good information to good people. You're listening, you're understanding the concern. You're not getting that with a robo advisor. The robo advisor is not going to sit there while they're on the computer screen and understand what really is the dynamic that's happening. That family very well, without your assistant, they may have never even understood that there were benefits when it comes to Social Security on helping raise those precious, precious granddaughters. And And then to have the mom come back in, their daughter, to be able to participate and get help and be able to, make better choices. Man, that's awesome.
It's a fun one for sure.
Let's talk about Social Security. There's been a lot of talk in the media. Um, there's been a lot of federal employees that have been laid off. There's been a lot of downsizing in large corporations. We were talking about a family that you're working with that worked for the railroad. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
let's just kind of walk through their scenario. What was their challenge? How did you help them, and what did this look like?
What a unique retirement plan, right? That the railroad has. A lot of people probably don't know that if you're a railroad worker, the federal government took over the railroad, years and years and years ago. And even though there's private entities, Union Pacific, their pension and retirement programs are run through the federal government.
Hmm.
And yeah, I have a great client he was a Union Pacific train conductor. And he did that for like 35 years, right? It's kind of like a pilot or a bus driver. They have their routes, and he had done that and had his route here in Utah forever. And
Hmm.
he retired and he came in and he was pretty sharp. He knew his stuff pretty darn well, and said, I realize that I've got this pension. My wife actually has pension benefits, which they do. The spouse has pension benefits tied to these railroad retirement plans, but the railroad does not participate in Social Security.
Right.
They don't pay FICA tax, and which is interesting. And therefore, because they don't, any pension benefits that are received through that um, can negate or offset or pull away from any other Social Security benefits that you might have accrued in other employment.
Hmm.
And in their particular scenario, uh, his wife had worked full time as well, and she had been paying Social Security, but yet she has a spousal pension tied to his railroad. And because of that, she was subject to what's called the government pension offset rule,
Yes.
that actually took away some of her benefits. In fact, it wiped it away completely.
Wow.
And they were somewhat familiar with it. They had heard from some friends and whatnot, some other retirees, and that's what happens a lot too, Ryan. Is people come in and they hear things around the water cooler, of their
Yes.
other friends that are maybe a little ahead of them that retire, and they hear these things and they're not quite sure how it works, and so they come in with some good questions, but sometimes some misguided questions because everybody's scenario is so unique, right?
Hmm.
What they hear from their friend may be partial truths that could be applied to their own, but not full truths.
Right.
So we're helping them really understand, look, this is not, Social Security is not a one size fits all here. It's very individualized. And so in this particular scenario, they'd heard some things and had some really smart questions, but didn't quite understand. And we went through the scenario. Well, what was really cool is recently she's been a high wage earner. In fact, she's been a max Social Security earner. Right?
Hmm.
She's income limits. She's been maxing out her FICA for many years. And so her benefit, she'd accrued a really healthy and nice benefit. But it was all gone because of this. But we sat down with them recently with some new legislation that happened with the Social Security Fairness Act.
Yes.
And we explained how this impacts their exact scenario. And she began to cry because she said, Brian, I was still planning to work. He's been retired for a couple of years, but she's still been working. And she said, there were some things that we needed to take care of. And I figured I needed to work for another 2 to 3 years before we really felt comfortable and prepared. But the information you're giving me now, I want to retire this year.
I love that. I love that.
And I said, let's do
Retire
it.
sooner than you can think.
Let's do it. Yeah, but it's information that they were not aware of how it interacted their very specific situation.
Yes.
So that was a lot of fun. I loved that meeting for sure, calling them in, knowing what I was going to tell them and how it was going to impact them.
Well, and two things I took out of that story, Brian, is number one, just because that's the way your family member or your friend at work or a neighbor just because that's the way they do their retirement plan, they're typically not going to tell you everything about their scenario. So sometimes many people fall into that trap of, well, that's because my friend did it this way, this is the way I need to do it. Where oftentimes that's exactly the opposite of what needs to be done. And
Right.
then the other thing is, who's keeping up on the changes on Social Security, the changes, like we just had that recent legislation. I can guarantee you're not getting that from your robo advisor. You're not getting that from your set it and forget it portfolio in one of the massive retirement planning firms out there that, or not retirement planning, investment firms that just, they try to get it for the lowest cost possible and just, hey, we're just going to stick these in these mutual funds or this ETF. You're not getting that type of health. That's the piece that we love talking about. This is why we do the podcast. This is why we do the education
Mhm.
events, is
Right.
because so many people make mistakes because they just don't know. And Brian, that's a great example of you, good information to good people to help them retire sooner. Oh, I love that. That is so awesome.
And it's a plan that we had built in place, right? And like you said, we're keeping on top of all of the changes. There will inevitably be changes again in
Yes.
people's retirement strategies, right? And so we have a plan in place, and it's not a perfect plan. It can't be, because sometimes the landscape changes on us, right? But we do have a plan that allows us to be able to pivot and make adjustments as the landscape changes. And that's what happened with this couple, right? They've been a clients for about 4 years, and he had been retired, and she's still working. Anyway, it's just changed their life, and they wouldn't have known about that. And maybe they would have found out or heard, but not really clearly understood how it impacted them. And so we were able to just jump ahead of it and get them in and reset the plan. And she gets to retire sooner because of it.
I love it. Brian, that's a really good place to wrap up this podcast. I think you've seen now whether you've got a unique situation raising grandkids, something that you weren't planning on, but what resources are out there to help you. Um, there's what if you've been married and divorced? What if you are listening to this and you didn't know that you were able to receive spousal benefits? It's 2025 at the time we're recording this, but we see people every day that because they didn't work outside the home, they don't think that they're eligible for Social Security, and
Right.
their spouse may have claimed Social Security 5 years ago, and they've missed out on 5 years of spousal benefit. Or, as we've seen here, recent legislation changes that have happened with Social Security that, if you're a federal employee or a spouse of a federal employee, what are those options to help you? Brian, thank you for all that you do. Thank you for the lives that you impact, for the families. In a world that we live in with AI and technology, sometimes people think that that can solve every problem, but you can't ever replace this one-to-one, look you in the eye across the table and care.
Yeah.
Care. That's what you do. You care. You're like, how can I help you? And it's just been a wonderful, we're so grateful that you're on our team, that we have an opportunity to work and serve these families here at B.O.S. Retirement Solutions and Advisors. So thank you, Brian, for all that you do.
Thanks. Appreciate you.
You bet. Well, if you're listening to this and you're like, you know what, maybe it's time that I have a look at my own scenario, invite you to click on the link below, or give us a call here at B.O.S. Retirement Solutions and Advisors. We'd love to just design a customized B.O.S. Retirement Blueprint just for you and for your family, so that you can retire with confidence. Hope to see you in one of our offices soon. Have a great day. And remember this, retiring successfully, it doesn't happen by accident. It starts with a plan, and that plan is the B.O.S. Retirement Blueprint.
Thanks for listening to the Retirement Solutions Podcast with Tyson Thacker and Ryan Thacker. If today's episode inspired you to plan for retirement, go to bossretirement.com/podcast to receive a complimentary B.O.S. Retirement Blueprint. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another story to help you retire with confidence. B.O.S.S Retirement Solutions is an independent financial services firm helping individuals create retirement strategies using a variety of investment and insurance products to custom suit their needs and objectives. Investment advisory services are offered by duly registered individuals through B.O.S.S Retirement Advisors, B.O.S., an SEC-registered investment advisory firm. The information contained in this podcast is given for informational purposes only, and no statement contained herein shall constitute tax, legal, or investment advice. The information is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual situation. You should seek advice on legal and tax questions from an independent attorney or tax advisor. Our firm is not affiliated with the U.S. government or any governmental agency.